Hello, everyone. My name is Lucian. Most of you know me from X or former Twitter as Triangle Investor. Today's guest is Ewan Webster, Chief Executive Officer for Thesis Gold. Welcome to my show. It is great to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Please, let's start with your background, your origin story. Who are you? How did you become Thesis CEO? Tell us more, please.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it started out in Scotland, I guess. I grew up in Scotland. I went to the University of Glasgow. I'm a geologist by background, so I completed an earth science degree there, and then I had grand aspirations, let's say, of becoming a professor. So, and I really enjoyed research as well. So, following that, I went moved to Canada to do a PhD at the University of Calgary, and that was focused on an area in southeastern British Columbia and looking at how the geology and the area evolved over the last couple of 100 million years and how the regions or deposits basically fit into that. It was a fantastic project, but I pretty quickly realized that teaching and academic life wasn't for me. But in saying that, having after finishing the PhD, I moved to Whitehorse to teach at the college, which is now a university up there, and I spent a year up there. But pretty quickly followed my kind of passion into the mining space, and I worked for a number of different companies, really, just through North and South America, a variety of different commodity types as a consultant, essentially. And then I joined John Williamson probably 5 or 6 years ago now as the senior geologist or VPX really for Benchmark Metals, working on and most of my time was spent working on the Lawyers project. So it's kind of come full circle now. But I spent a few years doing that, and then I stepped away with the opportunity to become the president and CEO of the original Thesis Gold, let's say. And I was in that role for about 3 years now, I guess. So yeah, as I said, it's come full circle. The two companies ended up merging, and I'm the CEO of the combined entity. So, which is a fantastic position to be in because I know both projects intimately. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, yeah. You said about Benchmark Metals merger. Can you tell me more how this transaction how did this transaction happen? What was prior? Who approached to who? Can you tell me more details about this transaction?
Sure. So, I mean, I think really, you know, when I started Thesis Gold, it was a relatively early stage exploration project, and we had a number of targets. There was some proven mineralization on the project, on the ranch project, that is, but it wasn't clear, like what the scale was there. Was there potential for millions of ounces? And it was going to take some time to do that. And over the course of the last 3 years, I think we've demonstrated that certainly is the case. And I'm sure we'll probably get into more
Yeah,
on what the ranch project has to offer. But Benchmark, at the same time, it was a much more advanced asset. It had been a past producer. They had a resource out. They were working towards a PEA, or had a PEA under the belt. So it was the two companies and two projects were at very different stages. But as we got into 2023, I think they had defined 3.5 million ounce resource. The PEA was out showing really robust economics. At Thesis, we demonstrated, hey, we have that kind of potential as well by the looks of it on the ranch project.
mhm,
So with both companies, I'd say kind of looking to continue expanding and growing what they had, it seemed like an opportune time to put the two projects together, recognizing that, I talk about this a bunch, but really scale, I think, is important here, where by combining two very good assets, I think we've effectively created a world-class project where Combined, we have the potential to have a much larger resource than we ever would as kind of two standalone projects. And because they're adjacent to one another as well,
Yeah,
you know, the economics are going to be substantially better on any kind of future studies. Um, and by having a larger entity, it's easier to grow as well. I mean, you've got increased scale, increased access to capital that
exactly.
fuels growth and development. There's less dilutions for shareholders, and I think that all of that adds a lot of value. And you know, the also what's important is the vision. You know, and by combining these two companies, projects, you know, we had a very strategic plan in place, and the merger completed in August. And really, our vision was let's complete a 50,000 meter drill program, and that was our target. And it was very strategically planned, you know, let's key objectives that then that drilling would feed into what will be a new kind of global resource for both projects and then a new PEA. And I think really that will outline the potential of this combined entity. So a bit of a long-winded answer there to your question, but
No, no, I
that's kind
love
of
it.
how we ended up where we are.
Thanks. Ewan, before we dive into the company's project and specifics, I want to hear your take on the precious metals market. How would you describe current environment for precious metals market, and what do you think is ahead for the market in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, let's be honest. And it's not been great for a while. And you know, I there's a lot of people know a lot more about this than I do, but I guess my take on it is that gold is doing very well, and I think we'll continue to see that through 2024 and continue to strengthen. The gold equities market is, you know, completely disconnected from the price of gold at the moment, and
Yeah.
we are not seeing any sort of valuations appropriate to where the gold price is. What it's going to take for that to realign, I don't know. I think probably a, quite a bit higher gold price than we're at the moment. And you know what's going to drive that? I think really a lot of it comes down to inflation, what the Fed's going to do, interest
Yeah.
rates, political instability, globally, and you know all of those things are there. Like I mean, the catalysts to really drive gold going forward in 2024, I think, are there. I really believe it's going to be a big year, and I think that we'll see equities realign with the price of gold as well. And you know, we've been in a downturn for a long time
Yeah.
in our space, but I think you know a lot of people genuinely believe now in 2024 that we are on the cusp of that rolling over. So, and that is my genuine belief as well.
Yeah, let's hope so. You have two great
Yeah.
projects, so let's move to them. Like I said, you have two projects, gold, silver projects in BC, Golden Triangle, Lawyer project, and the other one, they are adjacent projects. So let's start with is Lawyer your, let's say, flagship project?
Well,
Or you
it's the
don't
most
have a
advanced.
flagship project? They are adjacent.
I
You consider them as one or separate?
exactly. No, they're basic. Like I consider them as one project. We're not allowed to really talk about them like they're one project at the moment because, you know, in order to discuss combined resources and Ranch's pre-resource, but we need a technical report that basically joining the
Yeah.
two assets before we can talk about it as a combined project, basically. So at the moment, they're standalone projects, even although they are kind of effectively adjacent to one another and in one, basically
Okay.
one
Okay.
project.
Let's start with Lawyer's project then. It's
Okay,
more advanced project, let's say. Can you please give us an overview of this project and what is the current stage of this project?
sure. So the Lawyers Project was actually a past producer, so it's kind of brownfield development asset, and it was in production late 80s, early 90s, and it a high grade underground gold, silver, low sulfidation epithermal system. And it was run by BRGM out of France, and it really only closed down at that time because of depressed gold prices. And then the project it sat pretty dormant for honestly a couple of decades, but a private group held it, and John Williamson, Jim Gregg, they picked up the project in 2018, and that was kind of the point that I got involved as well.
Yeah.
And we recognized that there was a lot more potential there than it just being a high grade underground mine. Saw the potential for a bulk tonnage type of operation, and that was really the objective of the future years programs, was to test it for that kind of multi-million ounce potential. And I think we certainly demonstrated that is the case. The last resource on the project was late 2022, 3.5 million ounces. The vast majority, about 3 million ounces of that, is in the M&I category as well. So there's a lot of confidence in that resource. And then subsequent PEA in September of 2023 as well, with some really strong economics around that. And purely an open pit scenario. So a 12-year life of mine at about 1.5 grams head grade, and after-tax NPV of about 589, after-tax IRR of 24% with a 2.8-year payback, and the capex is just under 500 million. So, as a standalone asset, very good.
Yeah.
But I think we can make that a lot better. And that was kind of some of the rationale for the merger, I guess. But really simple geology, simple mineralization, simple metallurgy. It's a very straightforward asset.
What do you
Sorry.
plan for the next steps on this project? What are the next steps in the next, let's say, 6 to 8 months for this project?
So I view the next steps more of like a combined entity for both projects, really,
Okay.
because the work that we've done post merger is really all about tying these two projects together. And maybe if I explain, what the ranch project looks like, where we're at with
Sure.
that, then I can give a bit of summary after what the direction is for the next 6 to 8 months. But so the ranch project is a little bit different. It is a high sulfidation epithermal system. It is predominantly gold. There's a little bit of silver and a little bit of copper. But at earlier stage, we acquired it late 2020, and we drilled now, I think, on the project about 70,000 meters of drilling. There was historically about 30,000 meters on the project as well. So combined drill meterage is about 100,000 meters. And this year's program, was all about kind of and continuing to define near surface high grade mineralization. Again, the mineralization starts at surface. We've traced it in some of the zones to over 300 meters, 400 meters vertical depth, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing that type of potential that Lawyers has for many millions of ounces. So we also have a lot of targets there, and it is a kind of large epithermal field, structurally controlled. We've probably got 20 plus targets that share all the same characteristics as the known zones of mineralization, but haven't been drill tested yet. Metallurgy wise as well, very simple system, a little bit different than Lawyers. And that there's more sulfide associated with the system. But in initial metallurgical work that we completed in 2023, we were getting fantastic recoveries, between 90 to 98% gold recoveries and flotation. So I don't foresee any big challenges there. And we are collectively doing a large metallurgical program right now, looking at both assets as a kind of combined project. And so, as I said, we're starting to really bring these two projects together and look at it as a combined entity.
It makes sense, definitely. It was a big drill program, 50,000 meters, right?
That was our target, and we came in at about 43,000 meters. It was getting late in the season, and we'd effectively accomplished all that we were looking to do that year. So we decided to end it a little bit early and conserve capital for 2024.
Yeah,
but
and
huge,
I saw the essays. Some of the essays arrived in the late December. Do you have how much is reported so far?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I would say probably
Approximately, of course.
about half. I'd say maybe just a little bit more than half. But a lot of drill results that would come out in the coming months. You're going to see a lot more drill results from Cliff Creek on the Lawyers Project, where we were specifically targeting deep mineralization below those open pits to basically define what will be an underground resource. That drilling has been very good visually. Certainly, the mineralized zones look excellent. So I think we'll see a lot of strong results coming out of that. Also, there'll be more results coming from the Ranch project, the Thesis 2 zone, Thesis 3, and the Bingo zone. So a lot more to come over the coming months.
So it will be a busy winter. I mean, in the terms of results coming. That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, can you tell me more about the accessibility and infrastructure on both projects? Is there a road passing near the properties? What is the infrastructure there? Tell me, please.
We're very fortunate in that because it was a Brownsfields project, there's a fantastic road network up to site. It's about in northern British Columbia, the city of Prince George. We're about 450 kilometers northwest of that. You can drive right to the project, passing through Centerra Gold's Kemess copper gold porphyry deposit, which is about 45 kilometers to the south of us. And then the road continues up across the Lawyers project and then onto the Ranch project, which at the end of the road. And over the past 2 or 3 years, we've been working on substantial infrastructure upgrades in the area. We've reactivated the road onto the Ranch project because when they stopped mining in the early 90s, they deactivated the road to Ranch.
Yeah.
And they also deactivated the main mine road on the Lawyers project. So we've been working with the government and our First Nations partners to reactivate that road. We've completed that over the last couple of years. It's effectively future-proofed for any mining scenario as well. We've had to add a number of new bridges, and they're all rated to 70 plus tons. So road accessibility, fantastic. And something that plays into that a little bit is that the topography here is not what you would imagine of coastal British Columbia. We don't have high, rugged mountains. There's no glaciers. We have large plateaus with rolling valleys between them. It's all subalpine to alpine, so there's very limited vegetation. But as a result of that, you can operate very easily year round if you choose to. And logistically, it's just very simple as well. So road wise, fantastic. There's also a power line tie-in at Centerra's Kemess project, as I said, 45 kilometers to the south of us. We get a fraction of the snowfall that they do in the coastal range because we're in the rain shadow of that mountain range. And it just all of these things combined make this a very attractive place to work and make it cost effective and logistically easy.
Yeah. And who are your neighbors over there? Is there any other mining exploration companies adjacent to your properties?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of active projects in the area at the moment. TDG is just around us with the Baker Shasta mine. Adjacent to them, AMARC, when AMARC has a joint venture at the moment with Freeport McMoran, where they're looking for porphyry deposits. As I mentioned, just to the south is Centerra with the Kemess copper gold porphyry deposit. And there's a number of other projects as well.
So it's a big rush, so to say, in the area for finding
I think,
good deposits.
yeah, I mean, the Toodoggone is historically people thought that it was narrow, high grade, underground, and really there wasn't any substantial ounces there. And that that thinking lingered for a long time, from production right through kind of a couple of decades. And I think it was really just when Benchmark demonstrated, no, there's the potential here for high grade, open pit, multi-million ounce deposits that it really started to get a lot of traction again. And I think that perception has now changed and people really recognize that there's a lot of potential for large deposits here. And that's really breathed a lot of life into the Toodoggone. And We're you mentioned the Golden Triangle at the start of this discussion, and we're we're a bit to the east of the Golden Triangle, so we're out with it. But really, what the important thing is that we're within the Stikine terrain, and that's the terrain that hosts all of these large deposits of the Golden Triangle. So same age of rocks, same styles of mineralization, but has had a fraction of the exploration dollars spent on it that those projects to the west, that everybody's kind of familiar with, have, you know, with the size and scale that they're at. I think we're starting to slowly see that, hey, in the Toodoggone, as we spend more money and as we do more exploration, we have just as much potential.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Can you tell me more about the cooperation with First Nations over there? How is that going?
So we have four local First Nations in the area. We've been working with them hand in hand from day one. They're fantastic partners, and we actually use a lot of First Nations owned companies to do a lot of the work on the project, whether it's wildlife monitoring, environmental monitoring, baseline work, logistics, heavy equipment operation, infrastructure upgrades. So our local First Nations partners are being directly awarded contracts to do a lot of the work on the project. And in addition to that, we employ a lot of the members on the projects for a variety of different jobs.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense for sure. Uh, Ewan, can you tell me more about British Columbia as a jurisdiction? As how is doing business in British Columbia from your side?
I mean, I think British Columbia, and has been for a very long time, is an incredibly stable jurisdiction. It's a
Yes,
great place to be exploring, to be mining. And I think we're really starting to see that as well. There's been, over the last 5+ years, in and around kind of northern British Columbia, where we're situated, there's probably been about $5 billion worth of M&A transactions
yes,
involving some of the biggest mining companies in the world. And, I think that's only going to continue as they start to try and de-risk their portfolios with projects in jurisdictions that are not as good as British Columbia. So from my perspective, it's a fantastic place to work, and it's a fantastic place to have the project that we have with the potential that it does.
definitely one of the best places to work. I agree on that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about the share structure of the company, approximate numbers? How many shares do you have outstanding? How many warrants, options, etc.?
So there's about 174 million shares outstanding. There's very little warrants out. I don't know the number off the top of my
No,
head, but
approximately, of course.
yeah, it under a million.
Okay.
So very little warrants, and they're mostly just broker warrants. And um, in the money options, less than a million as well.
Okay. Yes.
So, fully diluted, I think in the money at the moment, we're about 176 million. So it's a very good position to be in. Our shareholder base breaks down to very strong institutional support. We probably have over 65% institutions, some of the largest shareholders being Equinox Partners, Delbrook, ASA Merck, Franklin Templeton, Van Eck. So a really strong, stable shareholder base that believes in the project and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. What about skin in the game? How much of the company are owned by insiders?
It's I think post merger it's about 3 or 4%.
Okay, that is also a solid number. And
Yeah.
cash position for the company, what is the current cash position and how long do you think that amount will get you through?
It's about $9 million, and that will see us. And I guess we didn't get a chance to talk about this earlier. I think I got derailed in something else, some other tangent probably. But that will fund us through all of our kind of major milestones for that we've got coming up over the next 6 to 8 months. So that drilling that we talked about will feed into, and all those results that are going to continue to come out over the next couple of months will feed into what will be a new global resource across both projects for the first time. So that will be a major catalyst for the company, I think. Then, in addition, and simultaneously, we'll also be working on a new PEA incorporating not only the underground potential in the Lawyers project, but also the kind of high grade near surface mineralization at the Ranch project. So I think that will also be transformative for the company and really demonstrate that we've taken two good projects and made one really kind of world class asset with fantastic economics. What I think as well is that it will very much be a starting point. And whatever we demonstrate we have as a resource and whatever the economics look like at the PEA, we're going to be able to, over the coming years, and really all of the blue sky potential is coming from the Ranch project at this point, I would say. But there's so much potential there to keep growing this project, and maybe that doesn't make sense to accelerate that just now, and do that drilling and do that work, but collectively the combined asset has significant potential to keep growing. So you bear that in mind, that this is a step one in demonstrating how good these assets are. So back to your original question, we are kind of fully financed through those objectives.
Okay. Can you talk specifically about the updated PEA? When can we expect that to come?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll backtrack a little bit here. The resource will be early April, I would say. Some don't hold me to that exactly, but sometime in that range, early Q2, basically, this year. And then the PEA will be early Q3. So sometime in August. And we're on track for delivering on that.
Okay, before I let you go, I want to know who is besides you on your team. I mean, the management and the board.
Yeah, in terms of management team, beside me is Ian Harris. He's the COO, and as we talked about earlier, I'm a technical geologist by background. He is my engineering counterpart, and he's taken projects from pre-resource through to production. So he has that bench strength to really drive this project forward in terms of the engineering to where we need to be. And then we have a very strong permitting, First Nations, ESG team behind us as well, with a number of different individuals working within that is effectively led by Mary Mioska. Then we have Nick Staduhar, he's probably like a chief strategy officer, let's say, but he helps with capital markets, corporate development, and kind of oversees that realm. And then Sean Major is the CFO, and he was the CFO for Benchmark, so he's carried on. He's over 25 years experience in that role, and he certainly brings a lot more strength to that position than just a CFO. I think he should have an honorary degree as a lawyer at this point, to be honest. And then the board, we've gone through some board changes recently, both with the merger and then post-merger, and we're still in the process of strengthening our team. But right now on the board is myself, Nick Staduhar, Thomas Mumford, Lisa Peterson, and Jody Shimkus. So a board of 5, and as I said, we're actively strengthening that as well going forward. So a diverse group of individuals with decades worth of experience in this sector, that with skill sets that certainly complement mine. So we've got a very good team behind this, driving them forwards.
That's excellent. Another question, sorry, Ewan.
No problem.
Thesis Gold in 3 years from now, where do you see it?
That is a very difficult question to answer.
I know it is. That's the reason why I asked it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's your job, I guess. So, I think this goes back to one of the questions that you asked earlier about the market the gold space and what this sector looks like over the coming year. And I think a lot of that will play into what we do strategically at Thesis Gold over the coming 12 months, next 12 plus months. We're in a very fortunate position where we have got capital in the treasury. We've got some major catalysts coming up that will be transformative for the company. But I think we let that play out. We see what happens in the gold space. We see what happens with those catalysts for the company. And then we will be in a much better position to make informed decisions about what we want to do this year. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility there. We could, as I said, we could continue to advance this project with doing another drill program at the ranch project, basically to upgrade the resource. So anything that's inferred out of this forthcoming resource, upgrade that to M&I so that we can push towards feasibility study. We could upsize that again to continue demonstrating the expansion potential on the project and really kind of push for additional ounces. And all the while continuing on with the baseline work and all the other kind of things behind the scenes that go into running the company. But I think post these catalysts and after a few more months and we see what the market looks like in 2024, I'd be able to give you a much better answer.
Fair enough.
And
fair enough.
it's not just me that makes these decisions. As we talked about, I've got a fantastic team around me as well, and we have a lot of ongoing discussions about what the right strategy is to drive this forward. And the board is instrumental in that as well, and they help a lot with kind of what the vision is. So stand by, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I have another one, and this is the final. I swear.
Okay.
In the terms of raising money, I know that not just junior resource stocks, even bigger stocks have problems with raising money in precious metal sector. Do you see that problem much lighter in the next period? I mean, the price of precious metals has gone up, especially gold. Do you believe that companies will have less trouble in raising money in the future than they had now or they had before?
I mean, let's hope so. We talked about this earlier, and I think, with inflation, with global political instability, with rise interest rates, all of these things, I think, are in the position to really just favor gold in the year ahead. And if that does happen, then I think it's going to make life a lot easier for everybody to raise capital and really put the spotlight back on gold and the potential that it has.
Frankly, I see it that way too, and I believe that better times are ahead. Thank you very much for being my guest. It was a great chat, and I hope we will catch up sometime soon with more news from your projects. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.